So remember Bleach, guys? I remember Bleach. It was a series. God damn, it was a series. It's been over for 8 months now. Can you believe that? 8 months since Bleach ended. Yeah, it's just crazy. I don't know, maybe the older you get, and I just turned 24 the other day, the older you get, time just seems to move by faster, but whatever. I don't even know why I'm doing this now, honestly. This seems like something more apropos for me to do as soon as the series ended. And I did consider it. I did throw out an idea like, hey, maybe I should do a video, you know, the way that I would do it, the way that I would change it. And I think I even sat down ready to do that video, and I just maybe I was just so like blasé with the whole like ending, and it's just like, you know what, I don't even want to do this. I want to move on to greener pastures. Gonna talk about My Hero Academia, of which I then abandoned those pastures and then moved on to even greener pasture. The grass wasn't the right shade of green. If you're curious about that, it was greener than Bleach. It just wasn't the right shade of green. I'm more of a dark green kind of guy. That was more lime green. You know what I'm talking about? I think you know what I'm talking about. But there's been a resurgence of inspiration in the past few days. I've been looking at some fan fictions. You know, there was a lot of people that, after reading that train wreck of an ending, they were like, okay, we got to do something about this. A lot of people that are way better wordsmiths than I am, they sat down and they drew out like page upon pages of fan fiction about a better way for Bleach to end. There were people that actually know how to draw better than I do, in that they can actually draw, and they went ahead and they redid the entire last few chapters in the original manga format, you know, and there's a few people that did that. There's even this guy, and I did a live stream with him the other day, I can't remember his name, it's the Modern Mongoose, I think that's what it was, yeah, and he is doing he's animating the entire last arc of Bleach, the entire 1,000-Year Blood War arc. He's animating it, and he got an intro out. I guess you should go subscribe to him, probably. And when he's going to change some stuff as he goes down the line there. So, you know, you got a lot of people interested in keeping the series alive, so I figured this would be an appropriate time to give you my ideas, to give you the way that I would have ended this. If Kubo was just like, okay, I'm sorry, I got a sprain, I'm gonna go on vacation, Matt, here's the pen, you finish this freaking thing. I'm like, okay, sir, alright, so, Ichigo embraced Rukia in a very lovingly, no, it's not gonna be that, This is going to be the climax of the story. This is not going to solve every problem, this is still gonna have some issues here, and it's still gonna end the same basic way. It's just going to be a little bit more badass, you know? Bleach is a battle manga. I would imagine it should end in, like, a serious fucking badass fight in that situation, you know? I mean, hell, I have problems with Naruto, but at least Naruto versus Sasuke, that was at least something. You know, this was basically like, you know, Deus Ex Machina arrow, and then Ichigo cuts Yuha, and then he wins. Good job, buddy. But this is going to at least give us something more. This is just going to be the ending of the series. I don't want you to think this is me redoing the entire last arc. The problem with this kind of stuff is that you might think it's really simple, just come up with a new ending for Bleach. But then you run into a problem where it's like, oh, well, I have to go back a few chapters and change this. Oh, well, if I have to change that, then I have to go back even further and change this. Eventually, you're going to work your way back, and it's like, well, why don't we just scrap the entire arc, you know? And I don't want to do that. I don't have time to do that. So this is going to be right around the time when Bleach's ending was announced. The ending of Bleach was announced in chapter 680. That's when Kubo gave us the big, you know, page, like, Bleach is ending in chapters, and the cover page with Yuha there. And it's right with this chapter. And if you have read the story for a long time, right at this chapter, the pace just gets knocked into 12 gear. Like, it was going by at, like, a decent pace. Like, you might have had some problems with the Shootstoffen fights, but for the most part, they at least, they were fights, the Mayuri's and Shunsui's fights against Pernida and Lilia, respectively, and even leading up to Askin's fight with Uehara and Yoruichi and Grimmjow. Those fights each lasted, like, a good 6, 7, 8 chapters. They were decently sized fights. Then we get to Gerard, who also had a decent fight. It's just not a good conclusion. But as soon as we hit and then we had the fight with Ichigo and Yuha. But the second we get to chapter 680, it's just like, okay, hurry up. We gotta close it in 5 minutes, guys. We gotta hurry up. Get this shit out of here. And so that's right around the time that I'm gonna be altering things. Okay, so this is the way it's gonna go, all right? Just follow me on this, all right? So chapter 679, Ichigo tries to fight Yuha, gets the shit beat out of him. He even tries to go into his hollow form. It's not working. His Bankai gets shattered. All that shit still happens, okay? And then Yuha, proclaims, I am the god. I can see the future. You can't do anything to stop me. He opens up the portal. He walks on through. He saunters on through. And then he just leaves Ichigo battered and broken. And he's like, I'll leave this open if you want to follow me, but, don't even freaking bother. This is right at the point where we run into a few problems in the story. One of the issues I have is that Ichigo is very clearly underprepared to fight against Yuha. He very clearly cannot win against him. Okay? Ichigo fought against Yuha when they first arrived at the Soul Palace. He got the shit beat out of him. And then he just goes and tries to fight him again, and nothing really changed, though. I mean, he has access to the hollow powers, but there wasn't really anything that really changed in those two confrontations. Ichigo gets the shit beat out of him, in chapter 679. He's like, oh my god, I lost, all my powers were sucked out of me, I'm dead. And he gets right back up and then just walks through the barrier and tries to fight him again, but nothing has really changed. Yeah, he gets his sword fixed by Tsukishima and everything, but it's not like he's not really gotten a huge power-up or anything. This would be like if Luffy fought against Blackbeard in One Piece, Luffy gets the shit beat out of him by Blackbeard, and then 2 chapters later, he just stands back up, fights against Blackbeard, and he wins all of a sudden. It would just be, it does not make sense from a storytelling perspective, but just from, the actual in-story, it just doesn't make any logical sense. How Ichigo would just get the shit beat out of him by Yuha, and then, he gets fixed up by Tsukishima and Orihime and everybody. But he's like, alright, I got my sword that didn't work, and I'm back to full strength, which still wasn't good enough. Okay, we should be good enough. It just doesn't make any sense. So, we're gonna have a little bit of a buffer here, okay? So, Ichigo is still defeated by Yuha, and you know what? I'll even give it that he still absorbs Gerard, alright? I could have included an ending to that fight, but you know what? Let's just go with this route, okay? Yuha still absorbs Gerard, walks through the portal, all that crap. Rukia and Renji arrive to comfort Ichigo and everything, and this is where we kind of, actually extend the situation. It's not like a rush. It's not like, oh shit, we gotta hurry up. No. So when Yuha arrives down in the Soul Society, who's waiting for him? It's Aizen. Okay, we're gonna have a fucking awesome Aizen versus Yuha fight. I think the fans deserve that. I think the fans deserve to see Aizen kicking ass. I think they also deserve to see his Bankai. Look, we're not gonna, I was under the impression we weren't gonna see every Bankai, and even if I was in charge of rewriting the entire arc, I still would not do that. I just wouldn't be giving out Bankais to every single person, okay? But, come on, amongst every single character in this story, amongst every Bankai that we would love to see, it would be Aizen on numero uno, okay? What, Shinji, fine, whatever, Shuhei, then it sucks, but you know what? Aizen, come on, he was a badass character. You either needed to show that he had a Bankai or confirm that he doesn't have one. I was gonna say he did have one. He still has access to Kyoka Suigetsu, so of course he still has a Bankai. There was some theories getting thrown around that, oh, well, Aizen wouldn't have a Bankai because maybe he doesn't need it or something. I think that's rather bullshit. I think that he would, of course, have a Bankai. He just never used it, okay? So that's the case there. So we're gonna get, a good 3, 4, 5 chapter fight between Yuha and Aizen. Throughout the course of this fight, Yuha manages, he breaks the chair, so obviously in this process, the bondage gear that Aizen's wearing, that would get ripped off of him. He would be able to fight at his full power. Something else, and you guys might think this is just me being a little bit biased here, to bring this character into it, but no, that's not the case. This was something that was so glaring of an issue that really just didn't make any fucking sense. It really didn't. And that was the case with Izuru. Okay, you bring Izuru back as a freaking zombie cyborg confronting Lilia, and it literally goes nowhere. It goes absolutely goddamn nowhere. We get one chapter with Izuru's triumphant return. He's bad. He's got a freaking, freaking mechanical crap all over his body. He's missing part of his torso. And then it just doesn't go anywhere. We do not see Izuru for the remainder of the series. We don't even get to see him in the wrap-up chapters like, oh, what's going on with all the captains 10 years later? We don't even get to see him there. That needs to be addressed. That needs to be built. That at least needs to go somewhere. And here's what I have with that. He's fighting off against Lilia, manages to hold his ground a little bit. When Yuha arrives down in the Soul Society, starts to fight against Aizen, throughout the course of the fight, Aizen, they're relatively evenly matched, okay? Aizen starts to get the upper hand, Yuha starts to get the upper hand. The problem is, they're both smug motherfuckers, and they don't want to use their own power. Remember, they're full power. You know how, like, when they first walked through the barrier, they were, like, smack-talking each other? It's like, I see you there, Sosuke Aizen, and Aizen's like, welcome to my Soul Society, bitch. These two have the biggest egos in the entire freaking story, okay? So they're not gonna go all out immediately. Aizen's not gonna be like, I have to defeat you without the consequences. Go, Bankai! And Yuha's not gonna go full power, he's not gonna do it, okay? So they're just gonna parry back and forth for a little bit, trading blows. But even so, their blows are gonna be strong enough that they're actually gonna be rocking the entire place. Aizen's going to be throwing out Kido. Maybe we'll at least get to see what that freaking Hado 99 5-ring dragon thing could actually do. Throughout the course of this, Yuha is going to, maybe, unexpectedly, he's going to blow off Aizen's bondage gear. He didn't actually intend to do that. He just did it. And then Aizen starts to get the upper hand. And so what Yuha does is, because Lilia is still scattered around, he absorbs Lilia back into himself, maybe gets a little bit of a bonus there. That evens out the fight, and that brings Izuru in on it. He sees, like, the light going that direction. He goes over there. Now, you might not think that, okay, so what? Izuru and Aizen are going to team up? You might not think there's much there. Hey, remember this. Aizen killed Gin. Okay, and Izuru's thoughts on the matter, we haven't really delved into them that much ever since the Fake Karakura Town arc, but I would imagine he's still a little bit conflicted about that. There is stuff there for character development. There's something there. He even if he could have realized maybe like Gin wasn't such a bad guy after all, because he really wasn't. He wasn't necessarily like a really good guy, but the reason that he wanted, like, he was basically like trying to get one over on Aizen. It's just that in order to get to that point, he had to, like, ostracize himself from everybody else. He had to make everyone think that he was a traitor. He had to pretend that he, defected with Aizen, pretend to kill Rangiku. He had to do all of this stuff for the better part of a century, be a cold, elusive guy, just so he would get the opportunity to kill Aizen. Now, I don't know how Izuru could have found out about that, because that's kind of the tragic thing with Gin's character, is that he died and no one ever knew what he did. No one ever found out what happened there. All is that Aizen just shows up and kills him. We don't actually find out. Like, no one was present when Gin tried to kill Aizen. That's what I'm talking about here. But you could write a way around this on that. Like, maybe Gin left a message for Izuru or something like that, or Izuru just maybe came to this realization on his own, or maybe Aizen would just straight up tell him. Like, Gin, he tried to kill me. He was always trying to that means to the end there, so he wasn't like a horrible person. But there's something you can have there between Izuru and Aizen that could add character development for both of them. Okay, so they're basically going to be a stalling party. So while Ichigo and the others are in the Soul Palace or in the Varvelt trying to figure out what's going on, and everyone gets regrouped, okay? Because it was way too freaking rushed there, with everybody just like, we don't have time, we have to go fight him. So there's some moments there where they actually can stall them for time, and they can actually figure out what the hell to do here. So, what's next? Okay, so I already covered that, okay. There needs to be more moments with Uryu. Absolutely. There has to be more moments for Uryu. You know what? I'm not even against the still silver thing, and I would have, this is one of those things that I would have loved to have been set up way earlier on in the story. But even if you're going to handle it at the climax, here's what you do. You allow Uryu and Ryukin to actually have a serious conversation about this, because that was a fucking joke. Ryukin shows up, shoots a freaking arrowhead, and just take it, use it to defeat Yuha, bye. That is ridiculous. That is bullshit. That is, I cannot see that actually going down. Ryukin's always been kind of a cold guy and not the greatest father in the world, but I cannot see Ryukin being such a cold, callous bastard that he would just be like, here's an arrowhead, all I came to do is give it to you, I'm not actually going to help you in this fight, you go handle it, son. You go kill the omnipotent freaking Kaiser of Quincy lore that killed the fucking Soul King and absorbed all this amazing power and to see the future. You have fun with that, I'm going to head back home and smoke a cig. That just doesn't make any sense. They're going to actually have a talk. They're going to have a good old-fashioned father to son. And you know what? Hey, Isshin, Go and see your fucking child. Because you know what? That scene where Tsukishima shows up and stabs Ichigo and, like, instills all of that, you know, that inspiration and that drive back into Ichigo, that's fine. That makes sense. But once again, it's something that just doesn't seem earned. Okay, it just seems like a quick band-aid that you throw on the wound. What would make a lot more sense? You could still use Tsukishima's power to fix up Ichigo's Bankai. That makes sense. But have Isshin there. Be with his son, and kind of, I know that would be kind of rehashing what they did in the freaking Karakura Town arc, but you could still add something there. Some last-minute father-to-son chats between, and it could be a parallel, you know, Ichigo and Isshin are talking to each other, Ryukin and Uryu are talking to each other, and this is the moment where they really pass on the torch properly. They, like, instill their, you know, the next generation to them, that they're ready. They've, like, Isshin could be like, Ichigo, you've already surpassed me. Ryukin could be like, Uryu, you've already surpassed me. It's your fight. We're here to assist you, and we'll support you however we can, okay? Let's have some more moments like that. Let's also have Ginjo and Tsukishima show up, but then not just disappear. Let's actually have them participate in the fight. Along with that, let's get everybody gathered together that can still stand and get ready to launch in an offensive against Yuha. Ichigo cannot do this alone. It just can't be Ichigo and Renji. You know, this is God we're talking about here, basically. That's what Yuha is near the end of this. Kubo, you went ahead and gave him all these crazy bullshit powers. Let's respond accordingly to all these bullshit powers. Ichigo, Isshin, Ryukin, Uryu, Orihime, Ginjo, Tsukishima, and then everybody else in this battle. You have Orihime there. She has healing powers. So let's get Grimmjow and Neliel back on this. We can have, like, okay, Uehara, Mayuri, Shunsui, they already had their big major fight. So I'm okay with them staying around. They could be like, their injuries are too severe, I can't heal them in the appropriate time, or something like that. Mayuri's in his healing tank, I don't want to mess with that. It might mess up his healing thing. That's, Nemu's a brain, you know, okay. So you can leave those guys out because they already had their fights. And like I said, those fights might have been like Uehara, I think we would like to see more of his Bankai, but, you know, whatever. We can leave them there. You know, the most that I would maybe like to see is Uehara coming back, but he wouldn't be able to contribute much. Maybe you could use him as a supporting cast member at that point or something like that. Maybe a tactician or something like that. You know, Kenpachi. I mean, come on now. There's still so much we didn't know about his Bankai. Come on now. Kenpachi's a tank. You can use Orihime to heal him up. At the end of the day, all really that happened with Kenpachi is he fucked up his arm when he tried to use his Bankai, and he got, like, you know, punched by Gerard, but that was it. You could heal him up, okay? And then maybe we can get a little more introspection on his Bankai. You know, he can explain it, you know, or something a little bit better than what we had, okay? Toshiro, you know, he could still do stuff. Ikaku, you know, he lost a leg, but that's nothing Orihime can't fix. Yumachika would be okay. Rangiku, we didn't even get anything with Rangiku. Rangiku apparently was healed at the same time as Toshiro was healed, but she just doesn't show up, so throw her in on this. And last but not least, you know what? I don't like her as far as I can throw her, but freaking Soy Phone. Okay, you had Soy Phone, and then she just disappeared. She literally just vanishes off the face of the freaking Varvelt. Like, she's just gone. The only way I could explain this is that she got shot by Lilia, but I find that hard to believe that the captain of the freaking Stealth Corps, who is gifted in Shumpo beyond, like, any reproach, near, like, only rivaled by, like, you know, Yoroichi, could possibly just get, oh, Soy Phone got shot by Lilia, whatever, we're down a captain, just keep moving. You know, Sentaro, Isane, fine, makes sense for them, but come on, and Shuhei, but come on now. Soy Phone, have her show up, have her do something, have her, hey, here's an idea, have her avenge Yoroichi. Boom! That's some drive and motivation for the Soy Master there. Soy Master, I don't know why I called her that. Soy Phone, that's some drive and motivation for her there, okay? Get her going on with that. And so that's all we need. We don't need a huge cast, and you know, Shinji too. Let's throw Shinji in there, of course, because Shinji didn't really get to do much of anything. But yeah, I mean, just get some people in there that didn't have a serious fight. And then you have Renji and Rukia, of course. You have Ginjo and Tsukishima, and then Ichigo. Get back to his feet, and then while Aizen and Izuru are stalling Yuha, that is when you step through the freaking barrier. Ichigo has all his friends and his family behind him to help him here. Fuck it, throw Chad in there too. Chad and Ganju, they kind of got the shaft too. Don't worry, I'm going somewhere with this. You might be thinking, oh man, Tekking, all these characters, where are you going with this? I'm going somewhere with this, don't worry. I'm going with something that I've been bitching about for a while now. All right, so Ichigo, and you can see that, like, end of the chapter, Ichigo in the front, all of his friends standing behind them as a testament to the Bleach story, his father, his friends, his former enemies, as with Ginjo and Tsukishima, all standing behind him, Rangiku and Toshiro, and they step through the portal, ready to go to Karakura Town and ready to take down Aizen, okay? So let's get that going too. Let's have that there. This doesn't fix the issue with like the Zero Squad or anything, but you know what? That's fine. We could throw Ichibei in there as like a side note, like, oh, they might be able to do it after all or some shit like that. We could throw him in there as just kind of a final parting gift. You know what a lot of mangakas do that I do like when a series ends? A lot of them will go back and you'll see cameos from characters we haven't seen in a while just to kind of catch up with them to see what they're doing. There's like, oh yeah, I remember that character. We haven't seen him in years. And he doesn't do anything in the actual chapter. He might just be sitting around thinking about something, but it's cool to see them again. And I love it when mangakas do that. And we didn't get that with Bleach. And I feel like you could throw in like, oh, there's Ichibei and he's just wishing that he can't fight. He's still too weak, but he's like, the power of the Royal Guard embodies you, Ichigo. Continue forth. Shit like that. It would take 2 panels. 2 goddamn panels. That's all I'm asking for here. All right. So they arrive in the Soul Society. They arrive in the Seirete. You have Aizen and Izuru fighting there. Izuru at this point could be defeated. He could be lying on the ground, whatever, because Yuha was just too much for him. It makes sense, but you could still get some, like I said, character development between the two. The way I envision this going down is Aizen is now on the brink. We're going to have that moment, that triumphant moment where Izuru and Aizen are like, okay, we can maybe do this, and then we cut back to see Ichigo and all the stuff I just said, and then we cut back, and of course, Izuru's busted on the ground, like, and then, freaking Aizen is, like, kind of panting a little bit, like he's a little bit out of breath. And then Yuha's looming over all of them, like the entire sky is full of eyeballs. And it's just like, ha ha, told you couldn't do it. And then that's the moment right when Aizen's like, okay, screw you, Bankai. And then that's when the barrier opens up and Ichigo and all of his friends burst forth, right? And so Aizen holds back on it for now, but that just kind of whets the fans' appetites. Like, oh, he could do it. And then, they regroup and everybody. Ichigo breaks out his sword, like points it at Yuha, like, we're going to take you down. And this is the cool part this is the part that I was most excited for, okay? Yuha's looking at this display. He's looking at all the people that are standing before him. He's looking at Ichigo, who recovered from his battle. He's looking at Ichigo, who now has his Bankai back that he formerly broke. And he's still such a smug asshole about it. He's like, Ichigo, you've managed to survive, as I predicted, and look at this. You managed to gather all the ants together in one easy-to-kill swarm, or something like that. I will show you that the numbers mean nothing before my power. And look at your Gotei, look at your members of your precious Soul Society, your precious Shinigami that have gathered together. I will now crush you with how appropriate it would be to crush you with the power of your former leader. And we get Yama's fucking Bankai! Okay? He uses Yama's Bankai, uses the South technique, and revives the dead. He revives the former Sternritter, for God's sakes. And now, we have a kick-ass battle, okay? He even goes one further, using Yuha's magical hibbity-jibbity powers. He doesn't just bring them back as skeletons. He can actually, like, maybe reform them as actually what they actually looked like in the past. Maybe he'll bring back some past Sternritters that we've seen that have fought against it. This is maybe where we can find out, like, BG9's and Robert Akutron's abilities. I just find that weird because we've had like all the Sternritter and we just never found out what 2 of them could do. I just found that weird. I mean, that would be like if you introduced, here are the Espada, but we only found out what 8 of them can actually do. The other 2 didn't even get their resurrections. It'd be weird. I mean, come on. If you're going to introduce, these are your set of villains, A through Z, quite literally, at least show what their powers on each of them could do. So bring back Robert or BG9 and people that we haven't got to see that much, and also maybe bring back some of the former Sternritters, who was the one that was there were 2. Algora was one of them, and there was the one guy that was a bitch to Basby when he tried to join up. The former leader of the Sternritters there. I can't remember his name. I know Zydritz was one. Zydritz was the guy with the eye patch. But Luther, something like that. It started with an L, I think. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, he brings those guys back. He brings back a legion of Sternritters to fight against all the cast of characters I just brought up. okay? And we're gonna actually have a goddamn battle royale here. Our battle manga is going to end with a badass ultimate battle. Weird, huh? You know? Meanwhile, as this is going on, I wanted this to be a whole flashback arc. I wanted this to whole be like a turn back the pendulum, but it's kind of hard to juxtapose that. It's kind of hard to juxtapose a freaking epic final battle between Shinigami and Stern Ritter with like a turn back the pendulum arc right in the middle of it. So I'll even have to shorten this down to like 1 or 2 chapters, if that. But this is the moment where, because we have all these past Stern Ritters coming back, that we have a moment with Uryu remembering a story that Ryukin told him. You know, about his past, about Soken, or maybe a story that Soken told him. And we find out about what was up with Soken. Soken was a member of the Stern Ritters that maybe defected or something like that. And remember back, like I said, that Ryukin and Uryu were actually going to have an actual conversation, like it, you know, when they should have. This is when the Still Silver was at least brought up, you know. So instead of being brought up like 3 chapters before the end of the story, it's brought up like maybe 10 or 12 chapters before the end of the story. Still not that great, but at least in this point, I'm considering like, alright, we're still going to have a Deus Ex Machina arrow, but at least it's going to be a serious fight. In order to get to that point where they can actually shoot that arrow through Yuha, it's not going to be just like, oh, I caught him off guard and I shot him with it. That's kind of lame. Let's just go balls to the wall, have an epic fight just so we can get to the point where we can shoot the arrow in. And that could be their plan when they step through the portal. Instead of just jumping through the portal and like, well, let's just hope we could do this, Uryu and Ryukin come up. It's like, no, Kurosaki, we have this arrow. If we could stab him with this, we can actually win. But in order to do that, we're going to need a lot of distractions. It's going to be insanely difficult to try to stab him with this. He could see the future, for God's sakes. So that's going to be their ultimate goal in this fight, you know, and then we can have, you know, Grimmjow, Nelio, Kenpachi, you know, past Stern Ritter. We can actually see, like, fights between them there. And that I think that would be a pretty cool way to like end out the final battle there, instead of just Ichigo, you know, Uryu catching Yuha off guard, stabs him with the arrow, and then Ichigo just, you're dead. Come on, let's get some balls to the wall up in here. Let's get some 10, 15 chapters of just Stern Ritters and Shinigami just beating the crap out of each other. Let's get that going on there. Okay, make some final, you know, like, oh, let's fix this up with some characters, get some final character development in there, you know, everyone, you know, united against, like, Ichigo was originally this Ryoka, but now even Soifone, who even kind of, like, was feeling iffy about Ichigo, is now rallying against him and now protecting him, you know, is using the shield. So, shit like that. And then, finally, it all comes down to, I don't know why they did... I mean, I understand why he did it, the Ichigo and Renji and Aizen sort of thing, but I think it would be much more appropriate to have Ichigo and Uryu, you know, and then throw Aizen in there as well. Just for the sake of he's like the strongest fighter there, you know. So have Ichigo and Aizen and Uryu fight against Yuha, while everyone else is, you know, in the middle of these fights, you know, and we cut around to see those fights. You know, some fights are not, don't get me wrong, we're not going to see, like, okay, here's Grimmjow and Nelio's fight, that's going to be 3 chapters. Here's Rangiku and Toshiro's fight, that's going to be 3 chapters. It's not going to be like that. But it's at least going to be 1 chapter each, and we're at least going to see what they can do, you know? And maybe some of them might not even make it. Some of them might get critically injured or something like that, you know? Final arc. You know, if you're going to pull that death switch, you might as well pull it all the way, you know what I'm saying? You know, Izuru can die. Freaking, you know what, Soifone can die. You know what, I'm fine with that. I still pull the Soifone, I pull it out under the rug. But yeah, that's the case. And then this is the situation where we get Aizen's Bankai to fight against Yuha. Perhaps it's an upgraded version of Kyoka Suigetsu where it's not... I always imagined what it would be. You know, a lot of people imagine some crazy shit like time reversal or something. I always looked at Kyoka Suigetsu's Bankai as quite simply, instead of just turning, you know, just a hypnosis or just an illusion, it'll either... Sort of like Itachi Tsukuyomi will actually trap you in that, like... in that version forever. You know, it won't like you'll be trapped in your hypnosis forever, or it'll actually manifest the fantasy into reality. You know, like an example that Aizen gave was like, I can make a fly appear to be a dragon. In his Bankai, he could actually do that. That might seem a little bit overpowered though, but in my reality, perhaps it's either just a bolstered version of Kyoka Suigetsu. So, whereas Aizen maybe, because remember, Aizen stated that Kyoka Suigetsu could interfere with his future sight abilities, but let's say Yuha managed to overcome that, And now Aizen goes to this next level to actually trap him to a state where it's like, this will trap him in a forever internal hypnosis world or realm. However, because he's Yuha, it might not actually work on him. He might actually be able to break it. So that'll be like, okay, it's only going to hold for a few moments instead of, the what it's normally supposed to do. That is your moment to activate it. And you might even have a sacrificial, you might even have Aizen sacrifice himself. I mean, that would be something that would be incredible. A whole chapter where we maybe look into Aizen and where he's come from and how long far he's gone. And actually sacrificing himself for the Seirete. It would sort of... I would say it would come out of nowhere, but we did get some setup for this. We got certain setups for, like, Ichigo remembering back, like, when he was talking to Ohara, he's like, maybe Aizen in his whole life, he was so lonely. And then Aizen remembers, like, this is what it was, this is what I was looking for this whole time. It wasn't just, he thought it was just, I need to find an equal in terms of power, or I need to gain a godly status, but rather than that, it's something more of just, having your comrades around you or something like that. Like, that is the thing that I was really searching for. It wasn't about power. It wasn't about becoming a god. It wasn't about lording over others. It wasn't about changing the world. It was just about, having people that you want to fight for. And I know it's kind of coming out of nowhere. I'm not saying he has to die, but I'm just throwing that out there as a potential idea. If I was going to write this, I probably wouldn't have Aizen sacrifice himself in that way. I would probably still have him I would have him, help in the fight and then just fuck off and leave. I wouldn't have him go back into Muken. I wouldn't have him do anything like that. I would just have him leave and then just never bother anybody again. Maybe he travels the realms in search of redemption or something like that, or just don't bother me. I won't bother you, and just fuck off. That's what I could see maybe Aizen doing. But this is where we sync back up to the end of the story, where throughout not just through one or two people, but through the collaborative efforts of everybody involved here. We have an opening in the situation where Yuha is stabbed with the still silver, and then Ichigo cuts him, and then we pretty much sync back up here, where the last few chapters are a time skip into the future, where we see everybody rebuilding, and it actually feels like it went somewhere. It actually feels like we had this big, epic, huge fight that just destroyed everything. It was our final stand, and we might have not have been able to make it out alive, but through all freaking opposition, and we lost some people along the way, but through all opposition, we managed to come through. It actually feels like we got through a big bloody battle, because that's not the impression we got. The impression we got was Uryu shows up, stabs him, and then it's just like, oh, okay, fight's over, 2 chapters. That was rather quick. I thought it would last longer than that. Big epic final battle with Yuha. I thought it would be a rather large event, but it only took 15, 20 minutes. We took them out. Yeah. This would actually feel like the entire place just gets completely leveled, like an atom bomb went off there, like everything's gone, and they have to rebuild from scratch. But it's worth it. So with that being the case, that's pretty much it. The main points, and then we have the final chapter with, I guess, you could still have Ichigo marrying I can't get it out of my head. Ichigo marrying Orihime or whatever, fine. The last chapter could probably, honestly, for the most part, relatively stay the same, because it would actually feel like we got somewhere with this. But the main issues I wanted to address was the fact that Aizen was underused in the final fight. It felt like, Kubo was setting up a bigger fight with Aizen and Yuha that just went nowhere. Izuru, you might be indifferent toward him. I don't really care that much, but come on, you don't set him up as a zombie cyborg and just go nowhere with it. He has to do something with it. The characters like Grimmjow and Neliel and Shinji that didn't really get a lot of spotlight, period. The issue with the Still Silver not being set up, the past with the Stern Ritters, which we've always wanted to know. The past with Soken, which, what was up with that? Ryuken and Isshin just showing up out of nowhere, giving Iryu a Still Silver arrow and just leaving. It makes sense for Ryuken to be there. Why the fuck was Isshin even there? Have Isshin fight. Have Isshin do something. Have him, fight against the Stern Ritter. Have him fight against, I don't know, man. Have him, was the issue with, that Shiro thing ever really explained before? On, Shiro, that hollow, that Whitey was created from the soul of a Soul Reaper, but it was never explained which Soul Reaper that was, or if that went anywhere. Maybe it was a member of the Shiba clan or some shit. Have it loop back around. Have Isshin, that would be perfect. Holy shit. Isshin, Rangiku, Toshiro, fight, like, a revived freaking Stern Ritter. Like, they fight revived freaking, who was a really strong Stern Ritter that would fight a revived, well, Gremmy was pretty kind of powerful, but fight a revived, member of the past Stern Ritter or something that we just never saw. Something like that. Do that. Do something with that. Ishin literally didn't even need to be there in that final scene. Yeah, so that... And then Aizen's Bankai, which I think we deserve to see that as a fandom at this point. We don't need to see Shinji's or everybody's, but come on, we need to see Aizen's. That's kind of something that needs to happen. All right, well, that was that. That was the way that I viewed it, the Bleach ending, better version. What do you guys think about this? You don't have to agree with me on everything. You don't have to agree on every little point. This is everybody can do this. That's the great thing. Maybe that's one of the positives that came out of the end there, where Kubo was like, you know what, I'll just leave it up to the fans. They can fill in all the gaps themselves, which is what I'm doing, which is what so many people on fanfiction.net have done, so many artists have done, that freaking, that modern Mongoose guy is doing with the new animation. I got it. I know, it's Retro Rhino, okay? I know that because somebody inevitably is going to be like, why are you calling him Modern Mongoose? That came out of fucking nowhere. Okay, Retro, Modern. Mongoose, Rhino. They're both African mammals. You guys don't get my sense of humor. If you got that, you win a cookie. Congratulations. But yeah, go check him out. Go subscribe to him for that, because he's probably going to come out with the most, like, if nothing, the most elaborate thing, actually animating the arc. So there you go. But what do you think about it? What are your thoughts here? What would you change? What would you like to get added in, more than anything in this story? How would you have ended this? And it might be hard. It might be hard to go back and just change the last few chapters. Like, no, we can't just change the last few. We have to rehaul it all we have to start at, like, chapter 600. Let's start with the Zero Squad and we'll move up from there. That's not the way I took it, because you can't fix everything, but that's the way that I envisioned a better climax. From chapter, like, if it was like chapter 680 that this plan was set in motion, probably around chapter, a little bit over maybe 700 is when the series would have ended. Something like that. Maybe even at 700. Giving us an extra 20 chapters to fit this all in, it might have actually been feasible. Probably not, but feasible. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you liked the video. Like and comment and subscribe and all that crap. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Later, guys. Also, no weekly Shonen Jump today. If some of you were curious about that, I believe it's Golden Week. I think it's around Golden Week in Japan right now, so there's no One Piece or anything this week. So anyway, had a good opportunity to do this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Signing out.